Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. With the roadmap update for Astroneer out now for a couple of days, I've seen a few people expressing some frustration in locating all 10 of the data circuit locations across the various planets. I have also seen some confusion around how to get the missions for the XL Large Resource Canister and Large Rover Seat B to appear in your mission log. So I've put together this video to hopefully ease that frustration. Before we get started, be sure to head down to the comments and share your tips for finding all 10 of these data circuits. Or if you're stumped and can't find them, leave an emoji that sums up how you feel about it. I am going to get the painful part out of the way. A lot of these locations are going to come down to RNG, though 2 locations and 3 of the data circuits are at fixed locations. I have spent about 15 hours across numerous saves tracking down all of these data circuits over and over and have come up with some best practices, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. I've included timestamps so you can jump to the best practices section if you want. There is some good news that you might be able to take advantage of, however. If you completed the previous 2 limited time events and received any of these data circuits as rewards from those events, then you can skip searching for those. All you need to do is collect the ones you already have by simply picking them up. You can then put them right back down again once you see the notification that you collected it. I'll be identifying which data circuit is at each location, so you can skip any of them that you may already have. When you load into your game, if you have already completed the Desolo verification mission, you will receive a new mission, Alert, New Structures Detected. You will need to start with this mission before the other 2 missions become available. And if you have not yet completed the snail mission for Usagi from Desolo, then you need to do that first. So, as it says right in the mission log, head to Glacio's North Pole and look around a bit. Unless your game is bugged, you will be able to see a huge extra large resource canister atop an installed platform right near the gateway chamber at the North Pole of Glacio. This is only one of 2 fixed locations for an installed platform. Now, simply walk up to it and you will have completed the first mission. Note that being near it in a vehicle will not trigger the mission requirement. You have to be near it on foot. The next time you visit a mission log at a landing pad, you can claim your reward of 3 mutant hispine seeds. You're going to want those, trust me. Don't leave yet though, because you need to trigger the next mission. See that data circuit on the installed platform? Pick it up. This is data circuit model A, 1 of 5, and when you pick it up, you will receive a new mission. Alert, new schematic available. This is the mission to unlock the schematic for the extra large resource canister. You have already completed the first of 5 objectives by picking up the data circuit here on Glacio. Looking at the mission log reveals that you will need to visit the hills of Desolo, fissures of Calidor, mountains of Vesania, and the equator of Atrox. I'm going to jump to that last location on Atrox because it is the 2nd fixed location for an installed platform. Before you head to Atrox, however, go to wherever you left Usagi or use the mission log to reclaim her, and then feed her a mutant hispine seed. Keep a couple of extra mutant hispine seeds on hand so you can keep her fed. When fed and on the same planet as you, Usagi will add nav points to your compass indicating points of interest. These are usually blue, but for the installed platforms and the other large structure we'll see in a moment, they're bright green, with the nav point for the data circuit itself being a bright aqua color. With that in mind, let's go to Atrox. Once you arrive on Atrox, you will want to head to gateway chamber number 3 on the equator. Of course, what I just said may not be helpful if you're newer to the game, so let's talk about it. First, I've seen a lot of people asking how to find the equator. The answer is simple, just look up. See that band of stars in the sky? When you are directly underneath that band of stars and it stretches to the horizon in a straight line, you are on the equator. You can then head either directly east or west and you will remain on the equator. There are 4 gateway chambers on the equator, so how do you know which one is number 3? Well, that won't be easy unless you have activated every gateway chamber on Atrox. But you don't really need to do that. But for those of you who have already activated them all, each gateway chamber is numbered when you are looking at the oddstone. If you have them all activated, simply teleport to gateway chamber 3, open your compass, and walk a few feet to where Usagi is indicating that the installed platform is located. By the way, that's what these huge platforms are called. Installed platforms. It's right there in the mission log. Don't worry, I kind of overlooked it as well until one of the system era devs pointed it out to me. Anyway, this installed platform is unique for not only being in a fixed location across every save I went through, but it is also the only location that contains 2 data circuits. One is a Model A variant and one is a Model B variant. Pick them both up. One of them will trigger an update for the mission we unlocked a couple of minutes ago, and the other one, the data circuit Model B505, will trigger yet another new schematic mission. This one is for unlocking the Large Rover Seat B schematic. This new mission is going to take you to the valleys of Calidor, flats of Novus, plains of Sylva, and the valleys of Vesania. This time, the data circuits are going to be located on massive structures called Parkade pads. If you aren't really familiar with all of the different region names in Astroneer, then I have a couple of tips for you. First, every time you move from one region to another in Astroneer, the name of the region you just entered appears at the top of your screen. If you forget where you are, you can open your compass and the region name will reappear briefly. Second, if you need help identifying the different regions, then check out 2 of my recent Astroneer Academy videos. I did a full tour of every single region of every planet and moon, highlighting their characteristics and showing you several shots from each and every one. With both schematic missions now active, let's get to the rest of these data circuits. We'll start with Desolo because it is probably one of the easier installed platforms to find. If you have been to Desolo in your save before, when you reach orbit, don't land yet. Instead, slow down your orbit and look around. Since Desolo is small and the installed platform is fairly large, there is a strong chance you will be able to spot it from orbit. If you do, select the nearest landing zone, paying attention to the installed platform's location as you land. Then open your compass and head in the direction you last saw that installed platform. But what if you haven't previously visited Desolo in your save and you don't see the installed platform from orbit? First, pick any landing zone and land your shuttle and get out. Wait a few seconds, then get back in and take off into orbit again. You should now be able to see larger debris and other items on the surface of Desolo, including the installed platform. If you still don't see it from orbit, then land again and use Usagi to help you locate it. When you do find it, it'll have data circuit model A205 and an ammonium nugget. For all of the data circuit locations, there are some general best practices that I found helpful as I searched across half a dozen saves. First and foremost, be sure to keep Usagi fed and bring along extra hispine seeds. When you feed one to Usagi, place another one on top of her terrarium so she can eat it later. While you can use any seed, her favorite is the mutant hispine seed and will keep her buff active longer. Be sure she stays fed. When the buff runs out, you will hear her kind of whine, and you should even see an indicator appear briefly letting you know it's time to feed her again. I made the mistake of not paying close attention to these cues, and I wound up wasting a lot of time. Don't become too fixated on the compass, however. Keep an eye on it for the nav points for sure, but also keep an eye on your surroundings. The installed platforms and parkade pads are both fairly large, and there were several instances where I just saw them in the distance long before they were indicated on the compass. Second, while you can use a rover to drive across the planets while searching, I found that VTOL saved a lot of time. Granted, you will also need to make sure you have enough hydrazine to keep it fueled, but I think it's worth it. There is one big caveat here though. Don't fly too high. Usagi has a limited range, and if you are too high above the ground, you can fly right over these locations without a nav point appearing. I found that flying at the height where the VTOL's higher speed could kick in was usually fine, though it was still too high for one location that we'll talk about soon. Third, have a strategy. Don't just randomly wander around. Personally, I made my way to the equator of every planet, then flew my VTOL directly east. Roughly 80% of the time, I was able to find each location. Some are not going to be near the equator though. When that happened, I then flew in a straight line to the North Pole, all the way around to the South Pole, and back around to the equator again. In all but 2 instances, I was able to find each location following these paths. You can use any strategy you want, but make sure you stick to it. This will save you a lot of time as you'll avoid wandering around aimlessly while also not circling back to areas you have already explored. Fourth, all 4 Parkade pads should be visible from orbit. These things are massive. If you aren't seeing them from orbit, then do what I suggested a moment ago for Desolo. Land, get out of your shuttle and wait a few seconds. Then get back into the shuttle and launch back into orbit. Landing helps your game to load in big objects that can be seen from orbit. Granted, I haven't tested this on consoles or on a lower end PC, but it should still work. Once you see the Parkade pad from orbit, select the nearest landing zone and keep an eye on the Parkade pad's location as you are landing so you can head right for it when you're out of the shuttle. Fifth, if you do not have a VTOL, then a rover with a drill and paver can help. Granted, this will take longer, but the drill and paver should help a lot since some of these locations are in pretty rough terrain. You can also use jetpacks to fly around, but if you do, I'd suggest taking a lot of hydrazine and also considering using Princess and Stilgar to protect you from fall damage and hazardous plants and to keep your oxygen tank full. Sixth, geez, this list is getting long. Don't be afraid to use creative mode, but wait, stop. Do not just turn on creative mode. You'll permanently disable all missions and limited time events. Instead, exit to the main menu, make a duplicate copy of your save, then load that new copy. Now turn on creative mode in this copy and crank up the flight speed. Usagi still works in creative mode, so you can fly around quickly and locate what you are looking for. Granted, this won't complete the mission in your original copy of your save, but if you pay attention to landmarks and get a good idea of where you are on the planet in relation to your base or shuttle, it should help you when you go back to your original copy of the save. Finally, be patient. I know that's asking a lot when the game is sending us on yet another rather boring fetch quest, but try to stay patient. You will find all 10 of the data circuits if you keep at it and use these best practices. With all of this in mind, let's move on to the remaining locations. Calidor has 2 locations, an installed platform in the Fissures region and a Parkade pad in the Valleys region. Again, you should be able to see the Parkade pad from orbit, so go for that one first. That will give you Data Circuit Model B, 1 of 5, and a small solar panel. The installed platform in the Fissures has Data Circuit Model A, 3 of 5, and it can be a bit more difficult. If you're lucky, it'll be in the upper levels of the Fissures. I did not get so lucky in many of my saves, however. More often than not, the installed platform was deep inside one of the lower areas of the Fissures region. That sucked because I flew right over it with Usagi active, but never saw anything on my compass because I was too high. So for this one, if you're flying, stay very low to the ground to ensure that Usagi can find it. This location has a bit of a bonus as the extra large resource canister contains a single Resopound nugget. Now let's move on to Vesania since it has 2 locations as well. Just like you did in the Calidor, slow down your orbit speed and keep an eye out for the Parkade pads in the Valleys region. You will find Data Circuit Model B, 3 out of 5 here, along with a small battery. For Data Circuit Model A, 4 out of 5, you'll need to look in the mountains of Vesania. This one can be a bit tricky for the opposite reason as we encountered on Calidor. Instead of the installed platform being almost underground, it's now on the top of a mountain. If you're flying low to the ground near a mountain, you may be too low for Usagi to detect the platform. To help avoid that, be sure to increase your altitude when you approach the mountains. If you're using a rover in the mountains, good luck, have fun. There are trees and bumpy terrain and you will almost definitely want a drill and paver to help you. The trees can become quite dense, which will make it a lot more difficult to visibly locate the installed platform. When you do find it, you'll not only have the data circuit, but also a leak and the nugget of aluminum alloy. If you've been following along in order, you should have collected all 5 Model A variants of the data circuits, and you will be able to use a mission log on a landing pad to claim your reward of an exo chip and unlocking the schematic for the extra large resource canister. And you do need to claim the rewards. If you don't, you won't be able to print any of the extra large resource canisters because, well, claiming the rewards is what unlocks that schematic. That's probably kind of obvious, but, well, I thought I should make it abundantly clear. You can print the extra large resource canister on the large printer from 1 diamond, 1 exo chip, and 2 nanocarbon alloy. Let's head to Novus next for what is probably the easiest location to find. It is almost comical how easy it is to spot the Parkade pad on the flats region from orbit. I mean, it's a massive structure on a tiny moon, so it kind of stands out a bit. Once you've spotted it, select the nearest landing zone, then make your way over to it. You'll find the data circuit Model B 205 and a floodlight. That leaves just 1 location remaining. The Parkade pad in the plains of Sylva. As with Calidor and Vesania, when you enter orbit around Sylva, slow down and take a look around. If you don't see the Parkade pad after orbiting once or twice, then do what you've done before. Land your shuttle, get out for a few seconds, then launch back into orbit. You should definitely be able to see it from orbit now. But if you don't, then use Usagi and follow your strategy for navigating around the planet that we talked about earlier. When you find the Parkade pad, it will have the data circuit Model B 3 out of 5 and a floodlight. That will also complete the second schematic mission, so you can now open up the mission log on a landing pad and claim your rewards of unlocking the schematic for the Large Rover Seat B and receiving one for free. You can print this new seat on the medium printer from 2 plastic and 1 compound. And now, you get to do all of this again in every save where you want to print the big canister and new seat. I don't know about you, but I kinda wish this was a one-time unlock that carried across saves, kinda like the pumpkin shelter was back in the day. If you are still having difficulty finding any of the 10 data circuits after going through this guide, well, you can leave a comment down below, or better yet, hit up the Vainglorious Discord's Astroneer channel, and I'll be there to try to help. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and leave a comment letting me know how many you found. Likes and comments really do help my video to be seen by more people. And if you want some of the best Astroneer content around, be sure to hit the subscribe button for more Astroneer guides and update news, along with a variety of content from other games. Until next time, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.